Great. So why don't we start with the selfie? Raise your hands, yell, shout, yay, people! It's more like a groupie, though, isn't it? Right? It's a groupie. So welcome to What Sorcery Is This? How software uses dark patterns to manipulate us. This is a thing. It's kind of a big thing. Software is out there doing some shady stuff. And also in person, in the real world, there's shady stuff too that uses some of these same patterns. You've probably seen them. We're going to take a look at these, how maybe to protect ourselves and our family, and as developers, what we should do about this. So let's take a look here. A lot of people think that what I'm going to talk about today, dark pattern, is just bad design. Right? I worked as a consultant for long enough. I saw a lot of bad code, a lot of bad design. Right? That's not intentional. It's just incompetence. We all know that person. Maybe somebody's here, but sometimes though, it's on purpose. Amazon, EasyJet, a whole bunch of you out there that we're going to call out today. So it is often deceptive. And because not everything is binary, like we programmers would like, there is a shady gray middle line that we have to kind of dance around and see what might be appropriate or not. So, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. Sometimes they are. So yeah, developers, here's why you should care. Because if you do, you can build better products. Right? You could protect yourself, and you should be responsible for your software, right? Not just, oh, look, the boss said to do it, I'm just going to do it, all right? How many times in history have we heard stuff like that? Never turns out well. So we want to do the right thing. So now that we have an idea of why, so what are these things of trickery? I'm going to show some examples, some tactics, and some of the psychology behind why these things work and how they work. So there is a Princeton University study on dark patterns. They crawled 11,000 shopping sites, and then they went back to do more later, and they keep doing research on this. And here's the definition they gave. The big takeaway here is the design choice benefits the company, not you, the user. It may coerce you or trick you that if you actually had all of the info, you wouldn't have done it. You ever go somewhere and somebody, like something shows up in your shopping cart and you're like, I did not put that in there, right? That's one of these things. Or imagine if you actually went to a store, a retail store, and before you even walked in the door, they made you fork over your ID and personal information, and then later followed you around the store, tracked everything you did. Oh, wait, we're online, right? If they did this in the real world, we'd be like, oh, you ain't doing that. But they do it online. So they are effective, but they can backfire. Right? They're effective till they're not. There's two ways they could not be effective. One way is obviously for the user, it's just bad at the end. So it's effective that the company got to, trick somebody, but it's not good for the user. And actually, in the long run, it's not good for your company because there's some links that I have at the very bottom are for reference. If anybody downloads the slides, you could look up all the research behind it. And Paul Bogue did some research on how companies don't realize how they're actually losing money when they do stuff like this. And we're going to see these things in a moment. So first we have to build up to it, though. So these can cost you on the back end with hidden costs to your company. And people have found out some of these things and said, oh, crap, maybe that was not the best idea to implement these things. So they can. People in my family, probably some of us here, and actually even myself, I will call out Telekom Deutschland, right? Because I live in Berlin, so I have them. And they like to give you little free gifts of, a gig here or there. And I go, okay, I'll take the free gift. And then they have a little dark pattern in there that gets me every goddamn time. Every time. I go in there and I go, okay, I want the free gift. And then it says, can we spam you? Really quiet. though, so it's hard to see it. And then the big, yeah, I want the free gift, and I go, yeah, and I get the free gift, and then I get a bunch of spam, and I go, damn it, and I have to go and unsubscribe. Very annoying, right? And it's a phenomenon that we're going to see in one of these. So it gets me too. It gets everybody at some point. One of them will. My father-in-law got this on a dating site. He was out looking, and they ended up just billing him recurrently without asking. Something similar happened to my own dad, other family members. So probably the same here. Right? Somebody has been taken advantage of. Australia, choice organization from Australia, said 8 in 10 have lost money or control of their data or have been manipulated. So yeah, it's a problem. Okay, we know that. And yeah, you have seen them. If you've booked on any, a lot of us traveled here, you've probably seen them. EasyJet's really big for this one, right? Every EasyJet flight is like 59 euros, and you go, yeah, that's super cheap. You click, oh, but then the seat, and then the bags, and then the other things, which I could understand if they said this up front, but they wait until you get halfway through, and they place links in confusing places on purpose, and they actually got sued because they were doing these shady things. As an example, EasyJet. Amazon is another one. You have Amazon Prime, try to cancel it. As a matter of fact, try now, while you're in this talk, and see if you could complete it by the time we're done. You might not be able to. It is purposefully hidden. And Amazon, that is a dark pattern. Stop it. Like, my older relatives cannot cancel without me, a tech person. That is not good. So here are these tactics, trick questions, sneaking stuff in. Privacy, I like to actually call it privacy zuckering, like Mark Zuckerberg, because he does this, right? They don't allow you to compare prices. The grocery store also does this. The grocery store is full of dark patterns. Misdirection, well, that's straight up Penn and Teller magic, right? Misdirection, hidden costs, bait and switch. Some of this is straight up illegal. But, just because there's laws doesn't mean people abide by them, right? So let's take a look at samples now. We see they're bad, we see, why we should avoid them, etc. So, clickbait is the OG dark pattern. It's the original, right? It is. Because if you knew the article was trash, you wouldn't have went in and read it, right? You would just pass it by. So that is one way to trick people into a click. Here's another one. It's in Dutch, but it doesn't matter. You can go to the link if you want, but basically, I've seen this in several languages. You go to a site, and it pops up this, do you want notifications? Did anybody literally ever say yes to this? That you want? No. Why does this even exist? Whatever. But look press allow to verify you're not a robot. If you just click anywhere else, it'll go away, but this is straight up lying and deceiving. This is just wrong, people. Please don't do this. It's awful. This made me so angered. I yelled on a train while somebody sent me this, and I was like, damn you. Very little train outburst, they're doing it again. So yeah, I want to avoid that. Here's more. This is a favorite tweet. This happens, you put something in your cart. One's available, 6 people. Hunger Games, get that product. Do they want us to fight? All right, I'm down. Yeah. More of that, Etsy, you do it too. Adobe, to cancel costs more than it does to keep the subscription. Okay. French site, instead of just letting you pay, they're kind of coercing you with the UI here to open a line of credit. Because you see the view more payment options is just a tiny link, but everything else is highlighted. And a lot of folks might not see that link. All right? So they've been called out. Here's more. Skype, privacy zuckering, more of that, sharing your contacts. LinkedIn got sued for $13 million for this. Said, oh, these ones about the cookies. And you can't really tell. Select all, confirm selection, and sometimes they purposely make it confusing. Here's another one. If I click reject all, then accept, what happens? I don't actually know. You don't know. Same thing here, right? This stuff, add stuff. But if you look at the bottom, like you almost have to agree, the resolution might be a little hard on the projector here, but you get to the end and you're not really sure. You have to click things to be able to continue, and you really didn't want to. They kind of force you into it, right? Anyone getting angry very early yet, right? Here's more. This is called confirm shaming. I got a friend that posted on Facebook, and she goes, you know what this website did to me? It said to sign up for a discount, but if I didn't, I don't want to sign up. I don't like to save money, right? And people read this, and they go like, but I do like to, who doesn't like to save money? We all do. And this draws out an emotional response from us. Software is actually tugging at us, at our emotions, when it does this. Or, no thanks, I'll pay full price. I don't want to be healthier. Nah, I want to die tomorrow. Like, really, all this is just ridiculous. That bottom one, no thanks. I know everything about gardening is what it says. It's a gardening guide. Actually, I do, so cite. In the physical world, so we'll pop over back to the physical world and get angered here. In the shopping mall, this mall's a good one. I walked in and I was like, yeah, it's a little more low-key than other malls, but the Gruen effect. You go into a casino, a mall, IKEA does this. Perfect. You walk in there and you're like, okay, now I'm lost. I literally walked in the door like a meter. I'm lost, right? That confusing disorientation is on purpose. And this has been decades of psychologists and marketers who are psychologists, by the way. They just don't have the PhD in it, but that's what they're doing. They are manipulating us. Casinos do it. They purposely have no windows and make it confusing. IKEA does this. IKEA is so fun, though. But still, they do it. Booking.com is the virtual example of that. Also, EasyJet and some of the others. Expedia does that, too. I think almost every travel site that is not the actual, like Delta, United, or some of the big airlines, even they can get a little off. So in the here's more. The grocery store, it has a lot of it. I had the good fortune to work for a snack manufacturing company a long time ago. And we wrote some of the algorithms to help people process the shelves, because they actually pay to where they put products, and it's down to a science. Like at certain people's eye level, and they put kids' cereal and snacks at the kids' eye level, and we all know about the front checkout with the little snacks and stuff, the impulse buys, right? We know that one. But if you look at the price tags, if you carefully look at them, say 2 bags of toilet paper, and you look at the cost on each, they'll be different, and you look at the cost per unit, which is supposed to help. The tiny print is the actual price, the cost per unit, not the price they're necessarily selling it for. Even though that's what you pay, the cost per unit gives you a more accurate cost comparison, which is why that's tiny. And it's also tiny online, or they hide it from you. So if you look at 2 packages of cookies, they have it so that these are confusing for you to figure out which is cheaper. But when it comes to cookies, I just go with the ones I like. So for some of us, it's not going to. And that's the thing. It's not going to work on everybody all of the time, right? It works on a lot of people a lot of the time, like too many, right? Casinos do this. So there's also online, offline, everywhere. The whole grocery store is architected so that when you walk in, you see fresh flowers, produce, and baked goods first, on purpose. Because then it smells good, smells like home, it's fresh, crispy, springy. And then they guide you through the store, things that you have to kind of get, like toilet paper and whatnot. You have to walk past the snacks. And they put stuff on the end of the aisles. They pay good money to put the stuff there, because people just see the stuff at the end when I'm not going down the snack aisle. I'm not doing it. Oh, this Doritos are at the end of the aisle. I'll grab them. So they do that. They do a lot of these things. And software actually kind of reflects that. Heathrow, you're doing it too. You have to pay within a certain amount of time, or then you get like a fine or something. Like, just let me pay as I go through. What's this weird stuff about paying later? You'll forget. Right? I have a hard time believing Heathrow is doing that, though, but that might be bad design, I think. Right? Sometimes it's bad design. But it is something that can cause these kind of patterns. Either they are deceitful or they can be bad design. So let's take a look at the psychology of what's going on behind it. Right? Humans evolved to be where we are today based on heuristics. They're generally beneficial patterns. Like, you hear a roar, you run away from the lion is a good one. It's a good pattern. Like, run away from the thing gonna eat you. You get to live. Reproduce. You get to make more of you and live. The species continues. We wouldn't be here without these. And it is what we do every day. And in the modern world, it's even worse. Because we have to go about our day. And research has it that we make like 35,000 to, I forget, like 100,000 decisions every day, or even more, up to 1 million for some people. It's not all conscious. Most of what our choices are subconscious. And we literally would not be able to function and live if it wasn't this way. You're just sitting there taking a drink. You don't usually, sometimes you think, oh, I'm really thirsty, but a lot of times you just grab, right? Or why Starbucks, you'll see a Starbucks on the corner and one across the street? Because people go on autopilot and just go into the same one. And if they open one up over there, then people just go over there. They know this. So they place Starbucks like that. So people just funnel into them without thinking. Because, again, if you had to sit and consciously think about every little thing, you'd not be able to get out of your bed to do anything, right? So those heuristics cause bias. A lot of people think bias is just politics and left and right, but it's actually not. That's the least part of bias that we need to be concerned with. Bias is all these little subconscious things we do that people are hijacking, just like this card going up the sleeve. People just hijack that. And this phenomenon is written about by a well-known psychologist. Here's a nice example of this. You've probably seen these going around the web, right? You read this, and then you go, damn, they got me every time, right? It's the way it's presented. Now, this is not a dark pattern. It's just a fun meme showing you how you can be tricked. But this is what happens. Because you did not sit there and decide, what should I read first? You automatically did it. Nobody sat here and thought, what should I read first? Oh, I'll read the first, you read this. No. You just do it. But subconsciously, choices are happening. So here's the key book for this. Robert Cialdini came up with these principles of persuasion, and then where they could even go off into coercion, which is where dark patterns lie. And in here, he gave these 7 principles. And you could see some of these, like scarcity is there's one product left and it's in 10 baskets, go fight for it, all right? Or authority, well, that's why celebrities sponsor products, right? That's not necessarily a dark pattern, but you can use authorities to kind of extort money out of people. Other social things like social proof. You go to a vacation website, not a dark pattern, but they'll say popular destinations. That's social proof, right? Things that other people like to do. People aren't going, can I go to somewhere in Antarctica because nobody else is? Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 people, but generally people go for the common places and things. Also being consistent. So these are all human things that we just tend to do and how we behave. And if you hijack these principles, then you can do that with a dark pattern. So you take those tactics from before and combine them with these principles of psychology, and you have little weapons to get money off of people, basically. And they do. And Cialdini called this the click-whir effect, where we're this little car, all of us, and these dark patterns, like the confirm shaming, it pops up and it goes, you subscribe and save 10%. Oh, no, I don't like to save money. And And it makes that emotional response, and you're like, but I like to save money. I want to be healthier. And it click, where? Off you go. And that's what we do. When you read that slide a few slides ago, you just read it. Click where. It's what we do. So that is just the automatic processing of our subconscious. Pickpockets. Anybody been pickpocketed? Surely someone. Usually there's one. Oh, we're a good crowd here. Wait, are you all doing the pickpocketing? Checking. So, okay, we'll find out who's the pickpocket in here. So you know where the most pickpockets are? Where most people get pickpocketed? It's not like a city or a country or a place. It's anywhere. You're walking around, say you're on a tube station, train stop, and you see a sign, or a mall, hotel, you see a sign and it says, beware of pickpockets. Yeah, you know why? People go, and they walk around and they go, oh, look, beware of pickpockets. Oh yeah, okay, I got my stuff. I just showed the pickpocket where my stuff is. Because nobody's doing this to the empty pot. Yeah, I got my wallet, got my stuff. Now they know. And that's what they do. They hang around those signs, waiting for you to go, click where? Check my pockets, got my stuff. Now they got it too. Okay? Media pundits, con people, they all do this. Anybody more angry and paranoid now? I'm starting us off right, angry and paranoid. I've been living in Germany a bit long now. From dark into some of the gray area. That stuff about the supermarket, it's called choice architecture. It's an actual term for this, choice architecture. I like how you're spinning that, supermarket people. And gray patterns. But there's other stuff online called choice architecture as well. One of them is this psychological effect called the framing effect. This doesn't have to be dark, but how you present things makes a difference. For example, if somebody presented these 3 options, nobody's drinking the one on the right. All right? Here's another one. Mom, what are you doing? Oh, okay. Right? Before you're like, oh, that's not good. How it's framed, how it is. Right? Probably many are thinking, oh, news, right? They do this too. Or here's some very common things you might see that you don't think about that are framed. What do you like better? I mean, who goes 15% fatty beef? No, because I want to be healthier. That's why I click that little thing and let them spam me. Here, this one. I'll take the 90%. I know they're the same, but it doesn't matter. There's one you prefer. You prefer it to be framed. Most people, anyway. Some of these, the same. 20% off or 120. 120 sounds better, right? Also, if you notice, people say, how can I help you? Because if they say, can I help you? You can say no. Or, this is a favorite. Always do this if you're the loser. Just go, we're the 5th best team out of 5. Right? just don't say you're the worst. You could spin it this way. So that's not dark, but it does show how you could frame things, and you can frame them right into darkness. Another effect, you see this when you buy an automobile. You see this online as well. Anchor effect, right? The first number, boop, gets stuck in your head. Remember this when you apply for a job or ask for a raise. If you don't remember anything else from this talk, remember that. Anchor yourself first. Don't let the prospective employer do it for you, because they'll anchor it low, right? So please, promise me you'll do that. Keep that in mind when you go for a job. Buy a car, other things like that, right? So anchoring the first one you see, then when you see something smaller of a price, looks a lot better than it might be. Other architecture, stuff like this. This is, not too bad. Amazon has had periods where they've made this a little awful. But this, they're doing the add to basket is a little more prominent. And they always do add the extra stuff. They just kind of shove it out there instead of letting you dig it out. This is not the worst thing they do. But I'm just pointing it out so we know it's there. It's a frame, right? They are framing it in a certain way. It is a little bit more encouraging than it needs to be. And that TV is probably going to last a little bit longer, whatever. Here's a good one. I really enjoyed this. West's Furniture in the United States did some A/B testing with their products and their online store. So this is a small chain, furniture chain, I think in the South and Midwest South. And they said, well, we want to see how people respond to some of our UX. So they said, well, what should we do here? We're going to run this ad, or have these people look at this ad that says Furnish Your Home in Style with West's Furniture. And it had a box and maybe some text in there and a picture of this lamp. And it was on the left. That's important. It's on the left. And then they ran the same thing, but with it on the right. When they ran the one on the left, they asked people, what do you think about if you were looking for an antique, what would you choose? Everybody chose the one on the left. When they said, if you're looking through our furniture for modern furniture, what do? They chose the same lamp, but the one on the right. Because people conflate time with space and distance. So that if you are a left to right reader, the one on the left kind of represents the past. The one on the right kind of represents the future. And if you're, say, Arabic, it's reversed, if you were to look at this for you. So how you frame it and where you position things, actually small things, can make a big difference. People actually said, antique versus modern. Honestly, they're both kind of ugly, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, so that's some A/B testing you can actually run to find, if I were selling, say, modern furniture, I definitely would not want to put it all on the left. And that's not a dark pattern. It is, say I sell modern furniture, then I want to present it as modern, right? So sometimes it's not dark, but important for the way you're framing to make it a decent pattern. Another one is mere exposure. Amazon does this pretty good. You ever go to Amazon and you just look at a page and they'll have a sponsored link? Let's see if we could find a... Let's do Chrome or something. Hello, mouse. Where are you? There you are. Oh. There we go. Oh, come on. I have not cranked up Chrome in a while. Okay. Amazon. Let's go to .de. They do this. And I'll look for, say, bath towels. Because I know they've done this with these. So you'll see as you go through, look at the way they set stuff up and frame things here. First of all, sponsored. That's sponsored. But they don't really want you to know that it's sponsored and somebody paid for it. So it's really tiny like that, right? So sponsored or featured from our brands. Oh, I don't know that's Amazon brand. Okay. Sponsored. So, okay, does that mean the products are good? No. But remember, did I talk about that effect yet? The first one in the list tends to get the most. So if you pay for it, they tend to get more sales, whether or not the product is great or better than the others. And then you'll see the Amazon choice. What does that mean, really? Okay, Amazon likes it. What does that mean for me as a consumer? Literally nothing. But people buy more of these because Amazon's like, it's our choice. And they're always fairly decently rated. It's not a 1-star usually. But look at these Utopia towels, Glamberg. Come down here, you'll see more like Utopia, more, repeating. Right? Now they're not even mentioning that they're sponsored anymore necessarily, right? So they just keep repeating them so if they want you to buy a certain thing, they just keep shoving it in your face, which is kind of annoying. And then, then you end up, unlike Google, going through page after page, but it's all of the same stuff. But I think we all realize, most people don't go past page 1 in Google, right? When's the last time you went to a page 2? So Google actually does a little bit of this too. So there's one. Primacy effect. That was, I should have put this slide before that, but first in the list gets the goods. So that's why Google works so well, but same thing. Here's another one of Amazon and TVs, right? That those top sellers were the first in the list, and they usually paid for it. It's really exactly like in the physical world, except they're paying to have it virtually placed at eye level, if you will. Right? It's that same kind of thing. Here's another conflation that people make. Physical size and the cost, or numerical size. So for example, if you were to choose a wine, this is lovely wine, it is $29.99 in American dollars, right? The exact same wine. When you present these two in A/B testing, people select the one on the right as being less expensive. Hint, it is not less expensive, in case anyone here didn't notice. But I think you see where this is going. The $29.99 feels a little less expensive because it's quiet. But the other one is a little bit louder, so it seems more expensive. This isn't dark. It's more of a presentation option, but it is still underpinned by psychological manipulation. All right? You still have all the data to make the choice here. But you do have that little click word of the smaller number feels. You're not consciously doing this. It feels a little bit less. And that's the thing. So if people could sit there on websites and go, how does this feel? Almost like you're in therapy. Then you can sit and start like really seeing these very easily. Like how does if it feels a certain way when it's presented one way versus another, it might be one of these little patterns behind it. Similarly, this is a common thing. Same thing when it's on sale, but that whole thing with the past and the future, the prices that are closer together seem to have, less of a discount than the one that's further away. Seems like a greater discount, right? Because you're not sitting here going, are these wines the same price? And usually they're not presented exactly like this on the slide. But you might see the first wine, and then you'll see it again, repeated, right? We just saw the repetition, mere exposure. You might see it the first one in the list, primacy, then repeated, mere exposure, but repeated with the smaller number. Or the one with the bigger, looks like a wider discount. And then later you'll be more apt to take that one. And it's the same thing, all right? So if I only do maybe, the one on the right to make it look a little bit less, and I don't keep repeating and doing all the other things, maybe it's just a gray pattern. But I could take this and combine this with enough patterns to just make people buy it. Just making people buy it. Not everybody, but enough people who then buy it and go, I don't even like wine. You don't even need to drink to do Amazon drunk shopping sometimes. Back in the physical world, I have a relative I need to use this on. Let's just say that. Those lovely wine glasses, when you put wine in them, it actually does make you drink more. If you have a bowl, they've done experiments with a bowl, and it actually had a little fake bottom where they could pump more soup into it. And the more soup they kept pumping, the more people just kept eating, not realizing that it wasn't really going down. So people often mindlessly, we all do this probably, mindlessly eat and drink. Sometimes we sit down to really savor food. Other times we're on the go. But the shape of things influences. So yeah, if you have that problematic person in your life, give them the glass on the right. Give them ugly glasses. Give them maybe a coffee cup to put their liquor in. They won't drink as much. It works. That's the science for it. Similarly, this is my absolute favorite in-person kind of, actually this is, I guess, a light pattern, if you will. I don't know if you do this here in Romania. In the US, I've seen this. Sometimes at an office, you'll have snacks, all right? And they used to bring in these little boxes of snacks and a little basket next to them where you're supposed to buy the snack on the honor system. I take a snack, I put in $1. Okay, right? And what happens is people don't plan on getting a snack. So we have the snack box. People don't plan on getting a snack, but they're going to the toilet. And they come back and they go, oh yeah, those cheese doodles. Yeah. Okay, I'll just grab one and come back with the $1. And they fully mean on coming back, right? But then somebody interrupts you and you forget. And there will be a few people who are just like, yeah, I'm going to take a few snacks. And when they counted how, like somebody actually did a little project, a research project on this, which A, is hilarious, but B, they showed that what happens is over like 80% of people, something like 85% of people, just took the snacks without paying. And I remember working at a company that had this, and they had to they kept complaining and going, people, if you don't start putting the money in, we're going to take it away. And people just didn't listen. They just kept doing it. But what would have worked, had I known about this when they had this, just go to a magazine and clip out a picture of eyes and just hang it somewhere. It reversed. Over 90% started paying. Click, whir. You're that toy. Yep, that's my favorite. Go do this. It's so fun. Go do it in the office. Get a little box, put it there, and then put the eyes over it later and see how it goes. It is so fun. Yeah. So now that we've seen quite a few of these little things, yeah, interesting. Yeah, we can not get as angry and paranoid now. What kind of ethical alternatives are there? Right? Because now we see wow, they're prevalent. There are these, you have dark patterns, but you have shades and ways that you could either make a dark pattern or you can go off and use psychological principles to simply, present data in the best way possible for your customers, right? So they have the best benefit and you do too, right? To run a good, legit app or website or whatever you're going to do. So what can we do? First off, turn to the law. Go talk to your lawyer, not Saul Goodman, if you have watched that. But here's just a few samples. Worldwide, lawmakers are noticing, I already mentioned LinkedIn before, 13 million for friend spamming, privacy zuckering. 2019, the UK has a CMA, a consumer something. They are the ones who started making laws around the booking sites. So EasyJet then had to change a whole lot of stuff, or they weren't going to be allowed to operate. Same with Expedia and Booking.com and a whole bunch of others. So that link has all the info in there. But they finally said, okay, enough people are complaining to business bureaus and things like that, government organizations, that governments are stepping in. 2021, USA, the FTC put out a policy statement, which means laws are coming. So warn them against doing this. We're warning you, kids, you keep doing this, we're going to punish you. That's the USA. There have been at least 4 states that have sued companies over dark patterns. So at least 4 in the US. And literally by the time I'm done with this talk, there's probably going to be a few more. It's really, picking up quite a bit. LinkedIn settled for 13 million. Germany and the EU is targeting dark patterns. Now you got the Germans mad. They're not going to end well. Because the EU, they just don't. With the whole GDPR and stuff, you're not allowed to do anything online the way it is, and it's just going to get worse now. So a couple of you all ruined it for everybody, right? The dark patterns people. So now the EU is coming in to get you too. So when you have the US and the EU going yeah, we're on board with this and we're going to get you, it's probably not good, right? When they're enacting laws about this. So there's a lot of interesting stuff in these links if you go and look at it with how they're trying to deal with this. I find it a little bit scary, but also entertaining how governments are approaching technology, because anybody in any government knows very little about technology. Like, we're the people who know this stuff. And just seeing some of the things that they think how it works, that's not how it works. No. Wi-Fi cannot just go into your brain and do stuff. Just American legislators? No, that's not how it works. No, there was not. Bill Gates did not put chips in the COVID vaccines. Americans, fellow Americans, that's not how it works. So, so they're taking note. So that's the first thing I would say. Go talk to your lawyers, right? Because the last thing you want is to get sued, and they're not messing around anymore, right? So make sure you get a good lawyer to approve everything. Some other things you can do. Well, ask if it's illegal, right? Get your legal team involved. All right. Wow, this seems easy, but I feel like as developers, we actually kind of forget this sometimes, right? Have we considered, is this what the customer needs and wants? Sometimes just because you could doesn't mean you should, right? I've been there. I've written that software where it's like, the customer really doesn't need this. It's happened, right? It's not just not being able to gather requirements necessarily. So, does the customer really need and want this? Here's the big one. If I were the customer, how would I feel? Like, if you're going to use your own website and it irritates you and does these things that makes you feel bad and scammed, you maybe don't want to do that to your customers. And everybody's here at this conference, meaning that we're all here because we want to be better programmers and better builders of software, right? Because we don't just program, right? If you're a software developer or an engineer, it's not just writing code. You have a product to build, right? So that might be that e-commerce site or an app, but that is a product. And I'm fairly confident everybody here is interested in producing quality products. So if that's the case, these questions are important, right? And we definitely want to step back and take a look if we're possibly implementing dark patterns. I fortunately feel kind of good working at JetBrains. We make IDEs. It's a bit harder to get a dark pattern in an IDE. We don't sell things inside of an IDE. But I've looked around and I'm like, I think there's some places where I can sneak them in. I'm not. I'm doing it for stuff like this talk, to be clear. But, just if I were to, how would I do this? It's an interesting exercise to take products like that and try to apply dark patterns where you might not find them, just to see, if that's possible, and then to know to not do it. So dog food your product, that we do, all right? So this would get like all of 5 minutes at JetBrains before somebody screamed, and it wouldn't be good. I would probably be the one screaming, actually. So here's a good one. Can this damage your reputation? Because EasyJet's not got a good reputation. Honestly, they don't. They're a discount, crappy airline that keeps just pummeling you with little nickel and diming you to death. And then you get on their airplane and it's not comfortable, and other people who have already been, scammed and, nickeled and dimed out of all their money are angry, and they are stuck next to you, and you're stuck next to them, right? So yeah, I'm angry at EasyJet and all of their dark patterns. They are a repeat offender. And even after the UK went after them, they kept, they redesigned their site, but they still sneak some stuff in that, they'll put links to skip, choosing a seat for extra money, except they'll put it in light gray on a white background. And you might have noticed this once in a while you'll get a spam email that you can unsubscribe from, and I've noticed some of them will have a footer that is dark and the same color link to unsubscribe. So they're obeying the law. They're not. But they're trying to say, well, we're obeying the law by putting the link in there. It's the letter of the law. It is not the spirit of the law. And depending on what jurisdiction you're in, if you're in the US, they don't care. You're violating the spirit of the law, and that is an offense. And I think that is a $16,000 USD per email offense. All right? Yeah. So maybe don't do that. Right? So can that damage reputation? If you do stuff like that, yeah. If you end up in my talk, yeah, you're doing it wrong. Right? Don't do that. It's not good. So, yeah. Here's what we could do about it. We work on teams. If you have a UX team, here's a good place to have a person. It doesn't have to be these giant teams. Not every company is a giant behemoth, like Siemens or something. So not everybody has all of these teams and roles. But what we can do is, if you can have an actual UX team and QA team, right? QA team, I'll really fight for, right? I really like to have QA teams. A formal ethics committee, which could be, just 2 people that have other full-time jobs, but formally take time out to review these things. If you do focus group, A/B testing, any of that kind of stuff, dog fooding, like all of those testing through your UX, QA, all of that testing is where you can surface this. And then, of course, user feedback. All right, if people complain and they say, look, I couldn't get out of this subscription easily, the answer is not to go, haha, like Amazon, right? It's to go, oh, well, let's help you. I'd hate to see you go. If there's something we can do for you, can we, to keep you as a customer? But, you can't keep every customer, and you can't force them. That's almost like holding them hostage. It is kind of holding people virtually hostage. That's not nice. Just don't do that. So keep up with the research. The lawsuits alone is a lot to keep up with, but it's not bad to take a spin around the web or have the QA or any of these roles or committees that you might have to go out, take a spin around the web and make sure that they at least have an idea of kind of what's going on with any kind of new user interface techniques or stuff that comes out, stuff like that. And of course, I think also when we do things like this, it doesn't just help to flush out actual dark patterns, but it helps us actually just create better software. Something else I tell people to do too, if you possibly can, you should have an accessibility expert on hand. And that person should be deeply involved in this, because dark patterns are at the core of anti-accessibility. People with accessibility problems are often very stuck into dark patterns, or affected by dark patterns. So it's another thing that we want to look at. And accessibility is another thing where the law is coming down on people, right? So we're all here because we want to make better software. We want to do the right thing. So these are things we want to do. Right? So that's our audit. And then here's some resources. Here's a good one. They have a whole Hall of Fame here on deceptive design. This is a great little video. It's like a compressed version of this talk with fun graphics. And they talk about all of these. They even have the Hall of Shame. Every day, there's new stuff that comes up just about. Tons of stuff about Amazon, tons of stuff about, Amazon, I think, got so big, though, and it's a little bit difficult, but lawsuits are happening. They're getting Instagram. This happens a lot. So just want to watch with that. So that's a good place, though, for a lot of cool stuff. And the research that they have up there, they actually have nice little animations and stuff showing you all kind of great ways to avoid and spot these dark patterns. Growth.design as well. Similar people. Here they have they have 106 of these cognitive biases and principles that affect your UX. Obviously, in 1 hour, I could only do a handful of them. But there's many more. There's so much more than is in this talk. And here we have a whole bunch. I just go through these case studies if you can. And, there we go. Bing versus Google. They have all kind of, not just dark patterns, but things about UX and things about crafting software and building products in a way that's more amenable to the user as opposed to being a dark pattern. But of course, there's a lot of dark patterns that they show here that you want to avoid. And then the case studies also on that site is another good resource. And some more. I mentioned Paul Bogue's talk. that it hurts you in the long run. He actually goes into how much it costs organizations to do a dark pattern. He has a whole talk on that. So I couldn't include it all in here. But basically, if you sell a product for, say, €5, they actually found this with a €4 product somebody was selling, and with the people calling customer service, doing returns on it, some people actually do returns. A lot of places, I think, count on the fact that people get kind of lazy. A package comes in the mail and they just don't return it unless it's a big problem for them. A lot of people kind of overspend on Amazon or online. It happens. So that kind of stuff happens. And he talks about how if you sell something for €4, it might cost $6 to have them go through that process. And it ends up, but you don't see it because you're in the dev team and that side of the business, and this is way over in accounting. And do we ever talk to accounting? Unless you're working on accounting software, right? No. Or unless my paycheck is wrong. Or no, that's actually payroll. That's not even accounting. So yeah, 90% of everything has a little section on dark patterns. Somebody else thinks they're just asshole designs, which kind of, but they're still dark patterns. Right? Even ABC News from the US is like, oh, dark patterns, you use them too, ABC, so shut up. Honestly. You with your stupid pop-ups and stuff like that, you do. Dark patterns and ethics on Medium, so there's a lot of good stuff. And any little link that was at the bottom of the slide just linked out to research that you can look. So there's a lot of stuff on here. So, and I know, like I said, we're all into quality software, so I know everybody's going to go out and look at these links right away. So I'm done, and I can take some questions, and I